everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is our first edition of our 2024 Success Stories. It's exciting. It's amazing. I can't believe that we're already here at this point in the cycle. And I'm so excited to get you talking to our guest. I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Puneet Anand. I recently PreMatched at Pediatric Residency program at Mount Sinai, Elmhurst, New York, and I begin my residency this year in June, and I'm super excited for it.
Great. And I think it cut out a little bit. What specialty did you say you matched into?
Pediatric residency?
Pediatrics. Awesome. And was it a stressful journey for you? Did you find that you were happy to take the pre-match offer because it was a bit easier to know what your fate's going to be?
I actually had more than 25 plus interviews, but the one reason that made me choose this pre-match was because I couldn't go through the match anxiety. It was too much for me. Plus, I feel like this match cycle has been particularly stressful because other and IMGs weren't getting that many interviews. Plus, a lot of new things started coming up. So it's just like I spoke to a few other people and they all advised me that you should think or like weigh the pros and cons, and if you have something in hand then you should like go forward and take it.
No, that's a great point. I mean, there's no point in putting yourself through the stress if you already have something that it's a great option right in front of you. So rewinding it a little bit, going into the match then, were you pretty stressed starting this match cycle?
Yes, because I spoke to a lot of people and they told me that connections mattered. And I knew that my application was good because I genuinely worked hard towards making my application well-rounded. I had research, I had pretty good scores, I had good clinical rotations, but the only thing that was missing were connections. And then literally every person that I spoke to told me that connections were the make or break thing in this match cycle. But I figured like uh, during my rotations I made like I guess 4 5 connections with the preceptors I rotated with, but I didn't get interviews from those universities. I ended up getting interviews from universities that I didn't rotate at or had no connections at. So, which was pretty surprising for me. And whoever is listening, I just wanted to tell them that connections don't matter really.
Yeah, I hear that all the time, though, that connections are so important. I think they help, obviously. I mean, sure, it's going to feel good to know that you might have some type of advantage. But at the end of the day, I really think it's what you said, a well-rounded application. You took the time to make sure that each part of your application showed something positive about yourself. How long did you take to prepare for matching into going through the match cycle?
I started during third year of my medical school, but then COVID came up and it kind of disturbed my schedule a little bit because I was planning to do a few rotations in my internship. So you can only do hands-on rotations while you are in medical school, and then you get to do only observerships. And letters of recommendations from observerships don't really matter. But because of COVID, couldn't do hands-on rotations. I completed 4 observerships, I guess. But I made really good connections with my preceptor, and I did research with them, did a few case reports, and ended up getting a really good letter of recommendation from them. So, and I honestly, I joined Twitter and I used to look up at all the social media posts that Inside the Match or Match a Resident posted about opportunities that were available. And then I contacted those people, and it just kind of like worked for me. I've found quite a few open research positions where you could work even remotely. So I guess that worked.
Yeah, no, I mean, that sounds amazing. And it sounds like you worked really hard for it too. Like, I know what it's like to monitor all of that and, go after these positions, try to make these connections when it feels like you're not getting a lot back. And it can be a little demotivating.
Yeah. I remember when I was like looking for clinical rotations, and because I didn't have any connections and I did not know who to connect, like contact. I heard that you could cold email people, so I ended up sending more than 5,000 emails, and only like I guess around 200 people responded, and only 10 agreed to give me like a clinical rotation.
I mean, still, like, I mean, wow, that is crazy. 5,000 emails. How long did that take you to do?
4 months. I used to send like 50 emails every day. It took me like more than 4 months, I guess.
Oh my gosh, but it paid off. I mean, you got
Yeah.
clinical. I mean, for anyone listening to this, that's one of our most asked questions, honestly, is how do I get like clinical positions? How do I make connections? How do I find research positions? And what you're saying is just staying diligent with it. And like it may be
Yeah.
frustrating. You might send 5,000 emails and only hear back from 200, but I mean, 10 of them, you got something that helped your application.
Yeah. Even the ju like my juniors or other IMGs who contacted me asking for clinical rotations, I told them the same thing that you need to like cold email people. But what I found was that they just gave up like after 100 emails because they were like they're getting rejections and no one is ready to accept them. But then you just really have to believe that one of the people that you're sending the emails will reply back and will give you a positive response.
Wow, that's great. So what did you say? I want to know a little bit more. What did you say in your emails? What would you tell somebody to say in this email specifically? And who should they send it to at the program?
Could you repeat it? I think your
Sorry.
question got cut.
What would you tell somebody to say in these emails? Like what advice do you give on what they should send and who do you say they should send it to at the program?
So I sent it to program director, associate program director, and literally all the faculty members to the residency that I was applying to. I applied to internal medicine, pediatrics, and med peds. So suppose like let's say University of Arizona. So I sent it to the PD, APD, and to all the faculty members. You could get their emails from the website. It's very easy to look up. And then the first, you have to like construct an email that consists of like at least 3 or 4 paras, but it shouldn't be too long, otherwise no one will read it. The first paragraph should introduce yourself in 1 or 2 lines, that who you are, where did you do your medical school from, what are your scores in one line. And in the second paragraph, it should show any previous rotation that you did or any major medical responsibility that you held. That could be during a medical school rotation, elective, or during your internship, some memorable experience that you could share. And in the end, just like one line requesting that why this elective would be helpful to your application.
And then you sent it to like everybody at the program. Did you send it to them separately? So you sent wow. So that did take you a while to send each email.
Yeah, it did.
Wow. That's impressive though. And I mean, it speaks to why you had 25 interviews. But like you said, you did apply for 3 specialties. What led you to that decision? And did you have a preference on where you wanted to match?
I honestly thought that I won't match into pediatrics because I spoke to a few people and they told me that I had that your resume needs to be very pediatrics focused. If you have internal medicine rotations or other varied stuff, then the PDs won't like that and they won't take you. So I had balance of both pediatrics and internal medicine, and someone told me that I would be like a perfect fit for med peds. So I was into med peds because I like the idea of providing longitudinal care to persons with disabilities because my
Yeah.
nephew has autism. So that kind of inspired me.
Mhm.
So I applied for med peds, and internal medicine was kind of like a backup to me because people thought that I would match into internal medicine, and my CV was very internal medicine specific.
Mhm.
But then I got more interviews from pediatrics because, anyways, I feel like I was just weird this cycle.
Wow. And that's what you preferred. You were drawn to pediatrics more so?
Yeah.
I love that. Would you say, I feel like I wonder if the reason was your pediatric personal statement like really passionate? Like I feel like speaking to you, I can already see that you know how to express yourself. You're very targeted in your goals. You're very passionate about that. Do you feel like maybe that's what read through your personal statement?
Yes, because I literally made everyone read my personal statement. Like wherever I was doing my rotation at during the application cycle, I made the residents read it and the PDs and APDs read it. They were very helpful to me for during my application cycle, I believe. So my personal statement was not generic. I read a few samples and I spoke to a few other IMGs as well, and they were instead of telling their own personal story, they had this thing in their mind that what PDs would like to hear. So that made their personal statement very generic. My personal statement was genuinely personal because during my medical school, I worked with a group of vulnerable section of population that genuinely needed healthcare. So it was like my experience and how I worked with them that kind of inspired me to pursue pediatrics.
Hmm, that makes sense. Okay. Wow, I love that. So you already had that experience, you have that passion, and I'm sure that probably read through in your interviews as well. So let's shift over to that a little bit. So you've applied. I mean, I really quickly I will ask this. How many programs did you apply to?
200.
Yeah, I'm sure you applied to a lot. Did you use Match a Resident? Were you able to use Match a Resident or?
Yes.
Oh, I love that. I'm so happy to hear that. Okay, so you applied to 200. You're going in. You got 25 interviews. That's great. Did you get them early on in the season? Were they kind of sprinkled about?
So pediatrics had this fixed date that when interviews would be released. I think it was October um 16th. I don't know, something around or somewhere around second week of October, I guess. I was genuinely so nervous during that time because my IM friends started getting rejections and I didn't hear back from IM or pediatrics. And then in the first week of October, I got my first IM invite. And then when pediatrics interview invites started dropping I started getting invites like 2 invites and then 10 invites. And then it was
Mhm.
like my last invite, I was it was like I think December and January beginning.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, then how soon after you had your interview, and then how did you guys just start discussing the pre-match offer? Like, how was it easy for you to decide?
Um,
Like, I know we already mentioned you said that,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
oh, sorry. Okay. I said, so you're going through the interview season, and I'm not sure when you had the interview, what that you have pre-matched into, but did you know pretty quickly that was the one for you? Like, how did that decision come to be?
So, I actually, my total number of interview invites were 31. I had 7 internal medicine invites, 2 med peds, and the remaining were from pediatrics. So, surprisingly, all my invites were from like really good programs, and I was like, I was going into the interview cycle. I genuinely wanted to pre-match because I knew that I wouldn't be able to handle the match anxiety even if I had like 100 interviews because there's this always this fear that's what if you don't match, right?
Yeah.
So I was genuinely hoping that, like Mount Sinai would offer me a pre-match and then I'll just like take it and be done with this match cycle. But what genuinely what helped me like make this decision was that in the rest my Mount Sinai interview was in the I guess November end, December beginning.
Hmm.
So all my interviews were before that,
Hmm.
majority of them, and I was just like so nervous during those interviews, and I saw someone told me that like when you're interviewing, just be yourself, and like you find the program that is like for you. You
For
click
you. Yeah.
with the people. Yeah, but then that didn't happen to me because during all of the interviews, I was just like so nervous and I was like shaking. And then after every interview, I used to get like a severe PTSD thing that, like maybe I said something stupid and what if I don't match? What would I do?
Oh.
So in the in the Mount Sinai interview, it didn't feel like an interview. They were just like talking to me and they were like trying to get to know me. They asked me where I was from, what did I do in my med school. It was just like very relaxing. I forgot that was actually an interview. Plus, my interviewer, he's also from my home state. So he knows my local language. And then he started speaking to me in that language, and that made me more comfortable. Plus, the APD was really into autism, and that just made me more comfortable. So I just like clicked with them, and they told me that, like whatever I wanted to do, they will support me. So that helped me make this decision.
I love that. It sounds like you did end up at the perfect place. I mean, all of those things just aligned. And it is kind of like what people told you when you know, you know. And one of the things that I've heard a lot, and I mean, it's easy to say, but is that you should look at interviews as more of a conversation. And that's not how it always happens, right? It's like sometimes it doesn't feel that way. Sometimes it's more intimidating. Sometimes the program isn't a good fit for you. Maybe it's tense. Maybe they're not
Yeah.
being that welcoming, you know? But then you find the one that does fit and you can actually talk and open up and they got to know you and it worked out perfectly. I'm so happy for you. It's amazing.
Thank you so much.
Are you so excited?
I am because during my interview I spoke to like the other candidates that were there. They're actually two of them are my co-residents now, so we already know each other. So it's kind of like amazing.
Oh, that's so sweet. You got a little family there already. That's going to be great because the support, it's so important. It really is. Like, this is really where you're going to spend some of the most stressful years of your life and some of the biggest parts of your medical journey. So you want to make sure that you're somewhere that you're going to be supported and you feel at home.
Yeah.
I love that. So wrapping up a little bit, looking back, what would you tell somebody right now who's prepping for the 2025 match cycle?
I would, the one best advice that I could give someone would be to not listen to too many people, because along this journey, you're going to meet many different people and they'll give you many different advices. Some of them would be like supporting you, but some of them would give you advices that might not suit you or your journey, because only you know what you have been through and what you are looking for in a program, and only you can figure out like what you want in a program. So I would suggest just keeping your focus, and if someone says you're not going to match or you have red flags, maybe not listening to them and just focusing on your own journey. So yeah, and also trying to reach out to as many people as you can. Doesn't matter if you know them or if you don't, but one email can genuinely make a difference.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. You might as well put yourself out there. I know it can be disheartening not to get the response that you're looking for, but it just takes one time. It really does. It takes one interview to match. It takes one response to make a difference. So just put yourselves out there, keep trying. And I would touch on exactly what you said about the red flags and not letting too much get in your head or too much advice. Like I think the issue is sometimes people do give it to everyone. They're like, everybody look at this, everybody tell me what should I be applying, what's best for me. Ultimately, you have to know what's best for you. Like the only person who can make that decision is going to be yourself. And yeah, maybe if you do have red flags, it might be even more stressful or daunting, but you can't let the red flags define you. I think that's what I feel like people are always missing out on. They message us or they call me and they say, how do I get past this? Is my chances completely done? Or what can I do now? What you can do now is everything you can to overcome it and just focus on that in your application. There is no shame in having had a setback and then showing, oh, I learned from that, I grew, and now I have all of these things to show that I'm actually very well rounded as a result. So just focus on those positive things.
Yeah, so during, I guess the math cycle officially started in September, but during August, when I was rotating in the institution, I met two professors that told me that I might not match this cycle because I didn't have enough research publications.
Wow.
So they told me that you need at least 7 articles to publish to get accepted. And I was like really so nervous because I was like, I'm not going to match, I'm not going to get any interviews. But then that's what my point is, that, like, don't listen to people, just focus on whatever you're doing.
We hear that a lot too about research specifically. Like research is great to have, but it's actually better to have US clinical experience. I mean, it's better to have those strong letters of recommendation, to have a strong personal statement. Sure, it's always nice to be able to talk about your research, but it's not the end of the world if you don't have it. For some specialties or programs, they may require it. You can see that when you go time to apply, but there's no reason to think that it's going to stop you from matching.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Is there any last words or anything that you want to add before we end this?
It was genuinely great talking to you and helping out whoever listens to this. But if anyone has any questions or needs any help regarding anything, they could always just text me, I guess. Yeah.
Yes, you can always find us on Instagram. You can reach out to us at Match Resident. And what's your handle again?
Um, Puneet.Anand 11. Yeah.
Awesome. We'll make sure to tag you in this as well. So everyone, you can go find her, give her a follow, shoot her a message if you have any questions. And thank you so much for joining us today. It really has been a pleasure. And honestly, I don't say this a lot, but you've told me, like, I've never heard of someone sending 5,000 emails for a clinical experience. So I'm genuinely impressed. And I feel like I walked away learning something. And I think that everyone who watches this will feel the same.
Thank you so much. It was genuinely great meeting you today.
You too. Thank you. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.